Hi, this is Steve Stroud. This is slideshow number 2 that I'm going to send to you that supports some of the information we went over in class. Hopefully it'll again jog some of the things we talked about and be useful in further understanding the topic of astrology. This is a short slideshow mostly focused on the houses. You can reach out to me at tostevestroud@gmail.com or my website, drstevestroud.com. All of our work here is supported by the Ripple Foundation, so you can certainly go to that website and check out any of the offerings that we have up and coming. So we're going to talk about the houses, and we're just going to walk through some of the slides that we have prepared here. The birth chart, as we know, is a two-dimensional picture of a three-dimensional world. It's a snapshot of the heavens from our location at the time we were born. If, for example, we draw this straight cross line here, this is called the horizon line. And if we were to put the hospital we were born at right here and looked out the window at the moment we were born, we would see that these elements or these planets were high up in the sky. We would see that these planets were not yet come up over the horizon. The sun had not come up to over the eastern horizon. This is called the ascendant over here. And in this particular chart, the ascendant is Scorpio. That's not true. That's not Scorpio. That's Virgo. So this, I got to read the signs right. So that's the sign of Virgo. So again, we're just looking at a picture of where the sky, what the sky looked like at the time you were born. This is called the birth chart. Here's another view of that. Again, the ascendant. For example, if you can see this, the sun here is high up in the chart. So we know that at the time of this person's birth, it happened midday. Sun high up in the sky. Again, another picture of that, houses 1 through 12. Snapshot at this point, the sun in this chart was set in the sky in the 8th house. Here's noon. Here's sunset. So late in the afternoon. That's the 8th house. The ascendant or the rising sign is to the east, midday. The sun sets over here on the west, and this is midnight or below the horizon. Born at noon, sun right here. Born at midnight, sun right here. The ascendant is the sign, the astrological sign on the cusp of the horizon here. A zodiac sign is just a constellation of stars. And this is where the stars were, that constellation, at the time of the birth. The first house, we're just going to jump right into the houses. The first house, as all the houses, are a territory upon which our life experience plays out. Each house has a harmonic with a sign and a planet. Each planet has a harmonic with a house and a sign. So all three of them have harmonics. But the thing to make clear is that the planet is what part of our psyche we are talking about. The sign is how that part of our psyche expresses itself. And the house is where that all occurs. Now, if you look at your birth chart, and if you have that handout that we had in class, you'll begin to kind of work through this. Some of you have planets in every house and some don't. Wherever you have planets, that's where most of your life experience plays out. Of course, we have all of the houses. Wherever the planets are, we tend to spend more time. We tend to have more of our life experiences. If you have a lot of planets in the 10th house, the 10th house of career, then you're going to experience more of your life experiences in that domain of career. Okay? The houses, the experiences of the houses are universal in nature. So for example, the first house is the house of self, the individual identity and our approach to life. The quest upon which we begin our life journey begins in the first house. Our identity, how we begin to have a physical manifestation in the world. It has harmonics with signs and planets, but you don't necessarily have to have the Aries sign or Mars in the first house. It's just the house of self, the house of how we begin to identify who we are. And that's the experience of that house. And each house is the same. Each house has a territory, regardless of what planet or sign is there. The sign tells us how that happens, how our self is manifest. And the planets will tell us what part of our psyche we are developing within that experience. Hope that makes sense. Let's go to the second house. The second house is the house of resources. The second house is classically the house of money, what we put value into it, what gives us value, what makes us feel safe and secure. A deeper level of this, the beyond money, is what resources we have within ourselves. If we speak 5 languages, that is a resource. How do we develop value within ourselves is the experience of the second house. It has a harmonic with Venus and Taurus. Again, Venus a planet, Taurus a sign. Third house, foundationally, is the house of communication. It's the house of information in and information out. It's becoming conscious of those things that may limit us in terms of what we believe. And so the evolutionary goal is to kind of go beyond our conclusions so that we stay curious. Those words are familiar when we talked about Gemini and Mercury, and to stay interested in information and always searching for different ideas that help us grow. So the third house is classically the house of communication. If, for example, you have your sun in the third house, a large part of your ego identity, of how you identify yourself, your sense of self, will have to do with communication. That's how that begins to play out. The fourth house is the house of home. And when we talk about home, we mean the home that we live in and also our innermost home. Planets in the fourth house, if we have lots of planets in the fourth house, we tend to spend more time, we have more focus there. And the focus is on understanding and assimilating who we are as we go into our sense of self. It has a harmonic with Cancer and with the moon. The fifth house is the house of creativity. To become an important part of something, or becoming an important part of who we are, and become a special someone. It has also a harmonic with Leo and the Sun. Leo, remember, is the sign of creativity. The Sun is the ability to creative life force. These are all harmonics. You don't have to have Leo or the Sun in the fifth house to have creativity. Creativity it goes beyond art, so to speak. Creativity. So if you look at that chart that you have from class, it's the house of children. It's the house of adventures. It's the house of exploration. And all of these things are creative aspects of who we are. Sixth house is the house of service. It's the house of health. It's the house of routines. Let's say you have the planet Neptune in the sixth house. Remember, Neptune is the planet of the spiritual path, right? So we know that if you have Neptune in the sixth house, your spiritual path will have to revolve around being of service. Some aspect of being of service will be part of your spiritual path. The seventh house is about relationships. Um, it goes from the individual to the other, to enhance our life by joining with another. Classically, the seventh house is the house of partnerships, the house of marriage. You know, on a deeper level, it's a house of intimacy and trust. That's how we develop relationships. But the seventh house territory, where that experience plays out, is in relationships. If you have a lot of planets or placements of planets in the seventh house, relationships is very important to you and in your evolutionary experience. The eighth house is the house of transformation. It's a house of ego death. It's a house of letting go of something so that something new can come on. It's death and rebirth. That's the transformation, the aspect of the eighth house territory. Placements of planets in the eighth house will highlight that transformation is a critical part of your life experience. The ninth house is the great quest, the journey to discovering the meaning of life, or bringing meaningful experiences to life. Has a harmonic with Sagittarius and Jupiter. The ninth house is often looked at as the house of travel, the house of higher education, the house of religion. These are things that we have to experience in order to understand the meaning and the purpose of life. The old astrologers called the ninth house the house of long journeys over water, because in ancient times, in order to expand beyond ourselves and to understand how the greatest unfolding of life, we had to get in a boat and travel across water to experience different people, places, things, religions, philosophies, in order to formulate what the meaning and purpose of our life is. If you have placements of planets in the ninth house, this quest will be a major part of how you live or experience life. The 10th house is the house of career. It's the house of our mission. It's the discovery of our destiny. It has a harmonic with Capricorn and Saturn. Our career house, you know, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. It's how people identify us. It's our most public house. It's how we are seen in the public domain. And that's the territory of the 10th house. The 11th house is the territory of being a humanitarian. It's a greater community. It's has a harmonic with Aquarius and Uranus. It's the ability to go beyond our ego identity to become greater than something we already are. I like this picture of Jimmy Carter. Of course, his ego identity was president, but after he was no longer president, he dedicated his service, his time, and his sense of self to Habitat for Humanity. So he became something greater than how people identify him with. The 11th house is how we function as part of a system or a greater sense of community. So if you have placements in the planets in the 11th house, being part of a group, being part of community is a critical part of your evolutionary journey in this lifetime. And then the 12th house, this will sound familiar to some of the things we talked about. The mystic journey is the 12th house and has a harmonic with Pisces and Neptune, to dissolve our individual sense of self and to merge into greater consciousness. And we had talked about greatest consciousness of the universe and our individual consciousness, and having experiences in life where we bring our individual consciousness into greater consciousness. So planets in the 10th house will tell us what part of our psyche we're going to dissolve into greater consciousness. And signs on the 12th house will tell us how that is done. All right, so I think that's the last slide. Hopefully that helps to stimulate some things that we went over in class. Refer to that sheet we handed out as you go through the slideshow. Hopefully that'll help. Again, reach out to me if you have any questions, and check out the Ripple Foundation website, as we'll have coursework and other classes up and coming. All right. Thank you, and hope this helps.